The topic of today is supply chain mapping. Avoid the risk of supply chain disruption, and that is that's something nice to do, but how should we do it? It can be complex. Many companies have a complex supply chain, and it is not easy just to do it. But I want to show you a little bit what I have done, a brief overview, and give you a kind of idea what's possible out there. So in the questions that I have been answering, this is the answer, is the need to understand, and the need to understand is to visualize your supply chain. Most people in companies, they understand where they're buying from, where the suppliers are, but they don't have the big picture of the whole supply chain. So that could be really interesting and really good just to have it up on a map and in a visual way. And then it's not just to have it a fancy picture of the supply chain. It is also to avoid supply chain disruption like we are facing today. Like with COVID-19, there has been lockdown in various countries and so on. So there are some issues, and as one professor said that I was speaking to, we will have a kind of a, he called it the guacamole effect in the supply chain, meaning that lockdown will come in various countries, and we might be seeing delays in different places in the supply chain. And also what's related to the topic that I'm been working in is the freight cost, the transportation. And as an example, in this presentation, I'm talking about the freight cost, for example, from China to Northern Europe, which is going up usually when it's Chinese New Year, but now suddenly it went up much higher, and that has to do with a lot of capacity problems with COVID-19 and so on. So that would be really interesting to know which SKU or stock keeping units are like facing this increased cost, and this could be like, you know, air freight or road freight or whatever. This can be many different things, but I want to show you a way that you can see, you can dig down and see exactly what SKU are in like, you know, facing this increased freight cost, or what suppliers. So the data input we need to do to do this kind of supply chain mapping, that's not very complex. We basically need a supplier data that is what's the name of your supplier, supplier number, street, postcode, country, and that is to do the, like, you know, put the points on the map where your your supplier is. And then we need the what's needed is the SKU data, the item data, the item number, description, which supplier it's connected to, number, for example. So you can connect that to the supply data. And then, for example, it could be total quantity of bought SKU in 12 months or whatever. It can be different. And so here we have an example, and I want to show you another. This is just a picture that I made from one example. This is the supply chain map of one company. It has most of the suppliers in Europe, and several in US, and then some in Asia. So you can see, and it's possible to, with what I'm doing, it's possible to make it like, the bigger supplies, you can make them larger. Either you can have it just dots everywhere, but it's also possible to make it after the size. So you can, in this case, you visualize your supply chain and you try to identify the risk in your supply chain with the thinking of where could be a potential disruption. So just to have it up on a map is really good, because then you can see like, okay, we are facing problems from the States to Europe. If you are, for example, like me, based in Sweden, and if the air freight would be locked down again, like it was in the beginning of COVID-19. So it's a way of like, quickly seeing where the problem might be. Then to make it a little bit more interesting in terms of freight and transportation, like I was talking about, is you can see the index here on the left side is the index from Baltic Index, Global Container Index, and that went up, is going up very much, and I did not have the index for the last year, but the increase was much more than it has been. So, and in this case, we are thinking about, okay, we are facing huge increases in cost of freight from Far East. So in that case, it would be interesting to know, like, and in this case, I just put 20% plus, it could be even more. And then I'm making like, a mark over the suppliers that are in that region. And we might be thinking like, could we do some different kind of sourcing? Could we find something else from Europe or in US or some other places? So that's a way of like, thinking quickly, what can we do if you're facing problems, for example, in increased freight. Not only with the map, we are not only seeing with the map, like, like a map where it is, but we need to know what suppliers are there, what articles are there, and how many in each country. So step one is like a general overview, is an overview of how many suppliers are in each country, and that could be like, in this case, in the US we have 28, and so in Germany, Italy, and so it goes on, and we have some freight index increases per 7 days. This is just an example that I did from the same index that I showed you, that there was an increase in the price. So it is possible to like, have the view how you would like to see it. I mean, if it would be the freight, or if it would be like, for example, price of raw material or some other things, then you could set it up like that, and you could know exactly what suppliers are in that country. And then to dig it down, let's say we have like, problem in China. I just took China as an example. We said that we have a number of suppliers in China, and we want to know which suppliers are they, and then we have just supplier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and those suppliers have those number of SKU articles that would buy from them. Some of them could be more important or more vital than other. So it's just, it's to give you a good overview. And to go even further down, we would then go in, for example, let's say we are supplier number 1 is the supplier that is very critical to our like, product. We are maybe manufacturing something here in Sweden or some other countries, and we would like to know what articles are from that supplier, and that could be SKU. Then we're going down to the SKU level, the article level, and seeing, okay, it is those articles and who are at that supplier. So in this one, what I'm showing you here is supply chain mapping on risk factor. So I have the supplier per country, the number. There are not so many, most of them are in Sweden, and one in China, one in US. Then you have the name of the suppliers and the number of item. And then below you are having the article, then you going down to the article level, you're having the item description, total quantity. In this case, it was bill of materials. So they are having 16 needed for the whole year of this bill of material, and it is in one bill of material. That is one machine, and in this case, one day. That's not totally correct, but if you're looking at, for example, this article here, it is in 5 bill of materials. That is 5 machines and has a 14 days lead time. So, and that's connected to the risk that is here. What we have here is a risk index. We have a high and high risk, and then I have a low and a high potential and a low risk. So based on the risk percentage and the risk index that I've done for this customer, I have managed to classify what risk this could be for that article. And of course, you can see here the picture of the supply chain map, and this you can actually dig down. So it's really interesting to go down and see where they are. So you can go zoom out and zoom in as you would. So it's interactual or yeah. So and if we'll look at, for example, we will say that we have problem in Sweden, and we look at Sweden as a country. Then we will just zoom in all the suppliers in Sweden. There are 86, and this is all the suppliers that we have in Sweden, and all the articles here. So let's say we have a problem with this supplier Ahlsell. It has 7 articles. Actually, the picture go down to the location of that company. That is the headquarters, so it's not. It could be more accurate, but that's. It is possible to make it 100% accurate, or just have it, in the city. And in this case, we are having articles here, 7 articles, and we can see that they are in a number of bill of materials. For example, this one is in 4, and most of them are just in 1. So let's say which of those are high risk. So according to the calculation in this case, is that this article, total quantity of 98 and just in 98 pieces, just in 1 boom, but has a lead time of 1, and that's because we know that the lead time one day is not valid. So that's why it became high risk. In percentage, it is all under 70% is classified as a high risk, and we have an index here. So that's a way of looking at, for example, just one supplier. But we could also be looking at a different way. We could also be looking at, for example, just all the high risk articles in Sweden. That means we have 26 suppliers that has articles that are classified high risk. And we have all the articles, all the 88 articles in this picture here, and this we could also export to Excel and like, you know, move into our ERP system or do some other kind of analytics work. So it is a, excuse me, so it is a way of giving you the general overview of how the, like, you know, how your supply chain is looking and what you potentially could do. And the beauty with this is that you can build on much more layer if you want to look at some other factors. It is possible to put that into the output. And as you can see, most of us are used to working in something like this. This is basically the bill of material, and this is terrible to have, like, you know, it will not give you the big overview. So the way to do this is to combine it in a platform like I'm doing here, in a workflow that I've done for this customer, and then just the output is in Power BI. What you can do, I mean, in terms of timeline, we are not talking about long time to do this. Let me see. To do this kind of basic work. This can be done in 3 days. I've been doing this in 3 days, and then you're getting like a supply chain map, a real-time mapping, and it is delivered as a Power BI dashboard, even if the dashboard is just the like, you know, visual. And then it's possible to I mean, if a company want to make this even more complex, now I want to see price alerts for raw material, or if it would be freight or air freight or whatever, it could be different. So it's possible to do this in so many different ways, and even for inventory optimization and networking optimization. So there is really many ways of doing working with this, and making it very complex or just have it simple. And my decision was to make this and present this as a simple tool, simple way of getting a good overview of what can be done, and especially to visualize your supply chain, and to get people started thinking about what can be done. What I've been doing and offering to people is I've been doing this for 2,500 euro for this initial setup, that is to make this supply chain map and connecting everything together, and then delivering this to companies so they could have it on their own site, the workflow, so it could be automated. It's not so often that you change supplier. It could be more like, you know, you're buying more or from this supplier or that supplier, so you don't have to do this so often. But they could be like, you know, if you're working with for example, the raw price material or container price or air freight or some other index that you want to update this more regularly, and then it's possible to set this workflow up in the company. And all this data is basically based on ERP. Most of it is coming from the ERP system, could be connected to a WMS, warehouse management system, or a TMS system. So it's the potential is enormous in this. And So the benefits with this is to, like I said, try to avoid cost increase and increase your flexibility in your supply chain. Be more proactive to see what's coming and see if we could do something differently, or just to understand how your supply chain is looking, because sometimes our thought is we think that the majority of goods are coming from this or that location, but in the real life it could be showing something totally different. So that is often could be a surprise. Yeah, it is possible. Can you also visualize routes in Power BI? Yes, it is possible. I'm working with tools that is possible to visualize routes either on a street level or this just a straight line, but it is possible to do that. If you have some questions about this, please let me know. Was this something that could be interesting doing? Is this something that you have thought about in doing, or is it just far off in what's going on? As I said, I was talking to the professor Yossi Sheffi the other day, and he was talking about a lot of supply chain mapping being very important, and even if many companies are not doing it yet, but they should be doing it. Just by seeing where your biggest suppliers are, or where your more important routes are, we could turn this around. We could do the different, the opposite. It could be your customer. So instead of supplier, it could be like a customer mapping. That's also possible too. It's just the same logic, but the output. And then I've also been doing network optimization, and then that's more connected to the whole thing. Like if you have a factory, warehouses, and customer, and so on. Companies or people are thinking that this could be difficult of doing or very expensive, but as I said to people, that you could do this initial, and it doesn't have to be so expensive. Like I said there, it's a matter of finding the correct data, and you don't need so much data. You need the supply data and article data, and you don't need all the article data like the whole master data, but you just need to have it possible to have it connected to that supplier. And so that's not so much, and I have found it that you often have that as a standard report in a ERP system. And I'm hoping that all of you could have some interesting takeaways from this, and to see what I have been doing, and maybe getting some thoughts up on the agenda to see maybe this could be something that should be higher up on the agenda than before. I think from my view, it is just to visualize the supply chain. It is something that has been difficult, but now it is less difficult, and with proper tools and good know-how, you can do it in a shorter time. So with that said, I would like to thank you all for participating, and I would like to wish you a great evening or the rest of the day, depending on where you are. And I'm looking forward to have the chance to talk to you later and see to understand what kind of interest or needs you guys have in your company. And with that said, thank you for participating and have a great evening. Bye bye.